Good morning. Two bills were recently passed by the County Council that have captured a great deal of attention from our community. One is a bill that would erode attempts to reduce the sale of tobacco within 1,000 feet of schools. The second is a bill that would make it illegal for pedestrians to walk on any county street without sidewalks. So let's start with the change to tobacco sales bill. In 2019, the St. Louis County Council adopted a prohibition on tobacco sales within 1,000 feet of schools. In that legislation, existing tobacco retailers were exempted, and they were allowed to continue selling tobacco, but that exemption was limited to the original owners, with the intention of gradually phasing out the sales of tobacco near schools. Some convenience stores recently petitioned the County Council to reverse course on the tobacco license and allow these tobacco licenses to be passed on to new owners if they sold their stores, allowing them to continue selling tobacco near schools. Unfortunately, the County Council improved this mechanism without considering additional enforcement procedures or any protections for our youth. And while I recognize the Council's stated goals to assist these businesses in their decision, I can't let this happen at the expense of our children. Studies have demonstrated that tobacco retailers in a high concentration of tobacco selling businesses contribute to a proliferation of smoking among our youth. The tobacco industry allocates 90% of its marketing to point of sales marketing, including around our schools. And students who encounter a tobacco retailer on the way to school are exposed to that marketing, and all of those efforts encourage impulse purchases and potentially influence them to start smoking. Inspections conducted by the County Department of Health reveal that tobacco retailers sell products to minors in violation of the law. In the past year alone, St. Louis County cited 32 establishments within 1,000 feet of a school with selling tobacco to minors. And over the past 4 years in St. Louis County, 32% of retailers within 1,000 feet of school have been cited by County Health Department for selling tobacco to minors. Loosening restrictions on tobacco sales near schools without also carefully considering comprehensive enforcement and compliance undermines collective efforts to limit the harmful impacts of smoking on our community. Since the legislation was passed in 2019, there have been several advances in compliance strategies which offer new ways to protect minors from purchasing tobacco products. As we move forward, it's crucial that the County Council also considers mandating data-driven strategies to address the detrimental impacts of smoking in our community, including some of these new technologies. We must do everything we can to protect our children from the harmful impacts of smoking. And that's why today I'll be vetoing Bill number 73. So let's move on to the pedestrian bill, protecting pedestrians in our roadway. We all want a safe community, and that includes those who walk in our neighborhoods on the way to a park, on the way to school, or on the way to a bus stop. It includes people that are driving to a soccer practice or to the grocery store. In an ideal world, we'd have all the necessary funding to build sidewalks and replace inadequate sidewalks along all of our county roadways. But in reality, funding is limited, and we have far more infrastructure needs than revenue. And those needs include building and repairing many of our sidewalks. Broken sidewalks make it impossible to navigate in wheelchairs. In many parts of our county, there are no sidewalks at all. Sidewalks that are in a poor condition pose a hazard to our elderly residents and to those who are visually impaired. Pedestrian safety is a concern, but making it illegal to walk in the roadways is not the answer. An educational campaign on pedestrian safety and a legislative agenda that prioritizes funding for infrastructure improvements that focus on motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians should happen before we have any new legislation. And I encourage the County Council to begin anew a discussion on pedestrian safety and use as its guide the St. Louis County Action Plan for biking and walking. In it, you'll see the results of a community survey where 57% of residents said that the biggest barrier to walking are that sidewalks do not connect them to their destinations. 30% said the biggest barrier is sidewalks that are in poor condition. The action plan from 2021 provides a blueprint for St. Louis County to develop a safe, connected, and equitable transportation system that supports people of all ages and abilities to access all of life's opportunities. According to the plan, walking and biking are key components of a multimodal transportation system that must be considered for all roadway projects in St. Louis County, and it must be implemented as funding allows. Unless we can provide a comprehensive system of good sidewalks, we cannot punish our residents for not walking in the street, or for walking in the street. The passage of Bill 86 came with good intentions but unintended consequences, and I'll be vetoing that bill this morning as well. Letters will be sent to the County Council this morning outlining my objections, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Hi, Executive Page. Do you think that the pedestrian bill, you kind of alluded to there, is a bad idea, or is it misguided, or is there just more that needs to be done rather than targeting pedestrians?
Well, I understand the intentions of the pedestrian bill, and I think it was passed with good intentions. But in the end, our sidewalks are in too poor of a condition to expect all of our residents, especially those with disabilities and wheelchairs, visually impaired, and expect them to be limited to our sidewalks. The second problem is we don't have enough sidewalks connecting all of our destinations, forcing people to cross back and forth in the roadway between sidewalks, and we're not ready yet to increase our penalties or our restrictions around walking in the roadways.
This is more of a procedural question, but would the pedestrian bill have only affected unincorporated St. Louis County or close to county-maintained roads?
This is unincorporated St. Louis County and our arterial roads as well.
Okay, so that means like municipalities where county roads are going through.
Well, you know, the enforcement action in municipalities is generally limited to municipal departments unless they have a contract with county police. In the end, this is a tough place to escalate enforcement actions around walking in the roadways.
So the reason I asked that question, could a potential way to get more sidewalks be to negotiate with municipalities to turn over maintenance of some of these roads and sidewalks over to municipalities?
Well, we certainly partner with municipalities to pay for sidewalks regardless of whether or not it's an arterial road. We do that frequently, and we've had a lot of success there. In the end, sidewalks are expensive, and we have limited funds in our municipal budgets or in our county budgets to get sidewalks everywhere we want them.
Dr. Page, some say that this bill is targeting panhandlers. Moving forward, do you see something else being done to address the panhandling?
Well, I know that's something that the author of this legislation feels strongly about, and we're going to sit down with him and see what is allowed within the law. There's been a lot of court decisions over the past few years that significantly limit our ability to, as a local government, to control what is very frustrating for all of us with panhandlers in some of our intersections.
As far as the tobacco retailers near schools bill, you know, I'm sure you heard from the business owners that testified at a county committee meeting, and they're really in a lurch with this, and some of them didn't even know about this rule before they bought their businesses. Is there anything else that the county can do to sort of help them at all? I know it's a pretty small number, but still.
Yeah, well, I met with some of the tobacco retailers last week, and I'm sympathetic to their concerns, and we'll continue talking to them. But in the end, the processes and procedures that are in place now aren't protecting our kids well enough, and they are slipping through the system and are able to purchase tobacco products on too many occasions over the past 4 years. So we have to improve our ability to limit purchases of tobacco products to kids before we talk about changing this restriction of grandfathering tobacco licenses that are within 1,000 feet of schools. I understand that some of these businesses predated the construction of the schools in some cases, and that the retailers, convenience stores and gas stations are in a difficult position, and we'll continue our conversations with them. But the primary responsibility of county government in our position today is to make sure we're doing everything possible to limit the sale of tobacco products to minors, and I don't think we're there yet.
Did you say in your remarks that you think that like a public awareness campaign would be better than specific legislation when it comes to pedestrian safety?
Yeah, I think we need to do more to talk about how to share the roadways and how to implement our plan, our biking and walking plan that we've previously adopted.
I'm just kind of, you mentioned the author, Carlton Atrekas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has said that like people aren't, respecting those types of principles, and that's one of the reasons he put this forward. In other words, do you think that that would actually work given that argument?
I think that campaigns to educate the public have worked on many issues in the past, and they'll certainly help. It depends on how much energy and enthusiasm, who your coalition partners are, how much buy-in you get from people in the community, but we certainly can do more. In the end, we need to invest more in building sidewalks in our community, and we need to have a conversation about that.
Do you think there's any doubt that this targets panhandlers?
I'm sorry.
Do you think there's any doubt that this bill targets?
Oh, the question is if the bill targets panhandlers. I think you'd have to go back and talk to the author about his intentions. It's very difficult in legislative process to read the intentions of other elected officials.
And what are your thoughts about the possibility of an override?
Well, the council will consider that, and that's a pathway. In my position, I have to veto or sign legislation based on how I see it. I think there's more work to do here on these bills, and I think we'll keep the conversation going.
And for a timeline on that, when will that discussion be happening?
Well, the council has a lot of very important things in front of it right now, and this will blend in with all of that. The county government is very busy. We're doing a lot of big things in the community, and these are two important topics that we'll keep talking about.
And do you think there's a middle ground on the pedestrian bill where there's some validity to what's being discussed? Or do you think that it just goes too far?
Well, we've certainly seen a reaction in the community where a lot of folks with a lot of credibility around the conversation about walking and biking and safe roadways have expressed their concern. But I think all the stakeholders should sit down like any complex issue, and we're always surprised when we can find a path forward. And we need to go through that process.
Anyone else?
Okay, thank you.